All right, guys. I hope you guys all checked out the introductory video for tonight that we produced. Special thanks goes out to my youngest daughter, the Munch, as many of you know her as. She is, yes, she lent me her stuffed animals, and I'm very happy that Charles has helped me out. So tonight, as was indicated by the little brief there, we're going to talk about what Mr. Wilson is going to do with the national bank system. He's going to try to revise it in a way that people like farmers and others who've always wanted much more in the way of inflationary policies, they'll get their wish when it comes to this new system called the Federal Reserve System. So the first part is letter D, is the president and the nation's bank. The president and the nation's bank. Wilson will create a brand new banking system that controls the nation's money supply and the nation's credit. So he's going to create a new banking system that will control the money supply and the nation's credit. And that's going to be a very nice thing, because now the Federal Reserve System is going to be able to invoke, in some cases, inflation that we talked about, the inflation thing, and farmers and especially some people in the workforce definitely like that idea. This Federal Reserve System is made up of 12 member banks, 12 of them, and the city of Chicago serves as our Federal Reserve banking location. So whenever one of our federal banks get any type of money, they get it directly from Chicago then. The Federal Reserve System, like I said, is made up of 12 member banks. The system is run by a Federal Reserve Board that is appointed by the president. It's appointed by the president. These are the central banks for all federal banks. Federal banks must be members of the reserve system. So, in other words, if you're a federal bank, you have to be part of this system. And so you have to comply with what they ask. Each member bank must deposit some of its capital and its cash into the reserve bank. So each member must deposit some of the capital and cash in the reserve bank. This is a type of control, right? This is a way that the federal government can now control the amount of money that's going in and going out into the system. If the national bank or the National Reserve System thinks that the economy is like going crazy and overheating, what it might do is call in for more of that money and pull more of that money out of the system to try to cool down the economy. If the economy, on the other hand, like we've had for several years now, is kind of tanking and not really responding, the Federal Reserve can now push money back into the system. And they can also mess with the nation's credit. They can determine how much they're going to charge you in credit for your car that you're buying or the house loan that you're getting. So they can control these important decisions as well. Each member can borrow from the system. Oh, yeah, I already got that. There's a new currency that's created, called the reserve note. There's a new currency created called the reserve note. That's just a fancy way of saying that it's a piece of paper money. So both this and this would be considered to be a reserve note, as well as your dollar bill that you might have as well. All of the paper money is referred to as a reserve note. So if you really want to be kind of funny, maybe you can go up to someone and say, hey, I'd like a Federal Reserve note, and see what the reaction is. By the way, the amount of money then in the system can decrease the value of money. So as we said, this $20 bill can be very valuable if there's not a lot of friends with it. But if we increase the amount of money and add several of these $100 bills, it will take the value of this $20, and lessen it because we've added more money into the system. Progressives and minorities, African Americans were hopeful that this new progressive idea that's running through the country with these three presidents will mean changes for them. Unfortunately for them, African Americans are going to get nothing from the progressive movement. In fact, when they ask Wilson for some type of solution to the Jim Crow laws, these laws that segregate African Americans and white Americans, Wilson will not respond and won't help in any way. Please remember, once again, his Southern heritage is still there. And lynching in the South will continue to go on without any type of stopping. The women's suffrage is the last topic in this chapter. For many women, suffrage is too large of a responsibility. For many women, suffrage is too large a responsibility. The problem is that for many women start realizing, if I have the vote, then what if I make a mistake? What if I pick the wrong person? This could really mean the really bad consequences in this country. I don't want that responsibility on me. Plus, women are also buying into what they're hearing from men, and men saying, well, listen, you're just giving your husband a second vote. You're increasing your husband's voting abilities. You're not doing anything to really make a difference. So women are definitely struggling with wanting to be able to vote. Letter B, women first gathered in Seneca Falls, New York, to express their causes, which include the voting. It's a small town. If you ever have a chance to go to Seneca Falls, you can usually go to the museum there, about 20, maybe 30 minutes. It's kind of tiny. But you can see the hall, which they look like they're restoring, and you can see where originally their decisions were made to ask for change to be done. Some of the ladies that will be involved in this that are leaders, Mott, Stanton, and Anthony, will be leaders of this suffrage movement. Interesting enough, the West, before the suffrage movement even gets going, is going to actually be proactive, and they're going to actually start offering voting rights for women. The reason is, of course, is because if you can remember back on chapter 14 when we talked about the West was so tough, so difficult, that it was really hard for women to stay and actually do what they thought they were going to do as a woman. Men started respecting these women who stayed and literally toughed it out there in the West. And so as a result of this, they decide women should have the right to vote. So Wyoming valued the women that worked and lived in their state, and this becomes the first state to allow women's suffrage. Letter E, Anthony will take the movement to a new level in 1872 when she and fellow suffragettes will actually be arrested when they demand the right to vote. This was definitely a step forward. Participation by women in the First World War, primarily in factories, convinced men that it was time for women to start to vote. Women also were helped by the 18th Amendment that took away the argument that if women could vote, they could also take away a man's right to drink. They could take away a guy's right to drink. Now, because the 18th Amendment, the prohibition, prevents men from drinking any longer, then there's no argument by men that women should not have the right to vote. Well, we're through the chapter. Hope you enjoyed this. I'm giving it 2 thumbs up for Mr. Schmidt and all the awkwardness that I've been dealing with. I hope you like the videos. I hope you like the instruction along the way. I know sometimes it's still like me. So I hope that it wasn't too bad. Remember, make sure you've done questions 21 through 25 already, and you should be working on 26 through 30 now. Guys, have a good night, or I should say a good day when you watch this tomorrow. And really, really be blessed. You have family that loves you, and you have a home, and you've got all the things that God has promised us. And I hope that you guys will take advantage of this and really enjoy the opportunity and time you have with your family. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day tomorrow. Bye.